Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley. Our guests on the program today are Dennis Travis, who is the City of Holstead, Kansas mayor. He's been on the program a few times before. And we have a special guest on the program, Shane McBee, who is the Senior Director of Corporate Account and Community Outreach for EOS Energy. How you doing today, gentlemen?
Hey, Lance.
Good. Okay, so for anybody that's watching the program, this is a special program. We kind of got this together at the last minute. It was a great opportunity for us to be able to sit down and discuss some new and emerging technology. At least it is to me. When we've had Dennis out here on the program before, he's talked a lot about a potential for an economic development opportunity for the city of Holstead in the form of battery energy storage systems, also known as BESS. Heard a lot of conversation about this. There are people on both sides of the aisle, both for it, not necessarily for it. A lot of discussion around this potential for an economic development opportunity for the city of Holstead. And through this, Dennis, as mayor, his responsibility is to ensure that he is turning over every stone, checking every box, looking into every possible opportunity in order to create economic development within his community. We've had this discussion before, as you can go back to the archives and you can listen to some of those. Dennis has been out here on the program, like I said before, a couple times. And recently, Dennis has been able to reach out and make contact with EOS, point man Shane here, McBee, to be able to just discuss this technology that EOS offers in the form of battery energy storage systems. So without further ado, because I just have to admit, I am not an electrical engineer. That's not my forte. Okay. And so understanding that this is something that is, I'm going to call it, in my opinion, the wave of the future, and understanding that when we are endeavoring as a society, globally, locally, et cetera, that this is something that is on the table and is quite interesting. So Shane, just to start with you, kind of what do you do? I threw out a title here, right? But what is EOS and what do you do? And then what is your official capacity with them?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lance. Great intro. I think it's important to think of the energy transition that we're going through as EOS by name is the goddess of the dawn in Greek mythology. So it's a dawn of a new energy era. We offer a non-lithium technology that is a static sealed bipolar cell, which means it has no thermal runway. It requires no HVAC to keep it cool for 20-25 years, and a wider range of operating temperatures and dischargeability. So very flexible battery, good neighbor. The battery operates at about the decibels, about 60 decibels, which is about this conversation. In terms of auxiliary parasitic load that it pulls off an inverter, it's about a couple of light bulbs worth in your home of energy per year. So the fact that it runs with no HVAC, there's no chance of a thermal event happening, and it's over 91% domestic content. Made about 16 miles outside of Pittsburgh. Actually, a neat story. It's in the Westinghouse facility where Nikola Tesla did his internship for George Westinghouse in the late 19th century. So it's the Mon Valley right there in Pittsburgh, and we've got a great opportunity there for folks to come up and see the plant, see what American-made, American minds can put together with American hands and American technology looks like. So supply chain. Everything that's a raw material commoditized is within about an 8-hour truck ride of the plant. So American supply chains, which we've can already draft off conditioned supply chains. So when we say 9-month lead time from booking to order, we can stick to that. We have no foreign entities of concern, impacts, no tariffs. If there's a pandemic round 2, hope not, knock on wood, we won't have any kind of impact from importing because we're over 91% American made. For myself, I'm in charge of going out, community outreach. I'm also in charge of our larger buying accounts as well as development accounts for developers across the country. I think it's a big piece for us as we get ramped up. There's some incumbent technologies that have been around 20 and 30 years with operating data already out in the field. we've got to get our technology, everybody comfortable with it, and part of that ramp is spreading the word and kind of evangelizing, if you will, what non-lithium technology looks like. How it's different. We try to picture the fundamental shift in how we think about the grid a little bit differently. So we like to think of it as you're on an interstate, there's a flatbed trailer to your right carrying steel to a job site. That's certainly one use case. The job site might be 8 hours away, so they're not going to get off at an exit for quite some time. Then to the left, there's an SUV carrying a family to dinner and a movie for the night. They might be getting off at the next exit. One use case might be 8 hours away, one might be 2. There's plenty of use cases. If the use case itself calls for a 2-hour discharge, that might not be our good fit for us. We're more in that 3 to 20-hour discharge range for true long-duration energy storage. Incumbent technologies have their space that they're good in, but you're never going to see really a zinc bromine reverse halide redox battery in a laptop, a cell phone, an EV, or your Apple Watch. So we're going to be a good fit for long-duration energy storage like Mayor Travis has in the city of Holstead, that's safe and the community can get behind and kind of relieve some of that stress around the things that we see in the news nowadays.
Yeah. I got to say, what you just said, I'm going to have to process because I think it's amazing. It really is amazing. Once again, I have to just admit the fact that I am not an expert in this, right? But I am somebody that's smart enough to know that what I want to do is have the conversation and learn, right? So this is a great opportunity to do that. Just real quick before I turn over to Dennis to find out how you guys actually found each other, honestly. Are you like an electrical engineer or something? I mean, you know this, and it's clear that you definitely have a doctorate level education when it comes to EOS.
Well, no, thank you. I had my grandson tell me that I was an expert, and then I said I told him that an X is a has-been and a spurt's a drip under pressure. So you're 100% right. I am an expert. Yeah. No, I'm a chemical engineer by degree. I got my MBA at the University of Miami down in Florida, and I ran a global procurement team for emulsifiers and plasticizers for the auto refinish business for PPG. And at the time, I worked in PPG Place in Pittsburgh, and I got a recruiter called me and brought me over to EOS. I've been there 4 years, coming up on 4 years in March. And it was neat for me to transition from a procurement stance because I got to see the battery and touch the resin when it was still a pellet. And there's things that we do fundamentally when we're making the battery. We add flame retardant and glass filler to the actual molten pellet before it becomes out and becomes extruded into the tub and lid that we have today. And I've gotten to see the battery go through generations over time and how it's changed and the way we used to make the battery. And we've done a lot of things in pulling cost out. The anode itself used to be a titanium annealized, where you would actually sit it in an oven at 1400 degrees for several hours, and this would allow that alloy to become part of how it interacted with the electrolyte. So the electrolyte itself, kind of a neat piece because it was an Exxon patent that we've tweaked over time. That's the secret sauce, but it gives us the ability for this. One of the things that's mechanically supreme about it is you don't have to go in and retool the cathodes, which on incumbent technologies you have to go in about year 8 and year 13 and kind of re-augment. And this is expensive. And when we say this is a static sealed bipolar cell, it's getting to the site. We stand behind it for several years so that Evergy's comfortable or whoever's going to own the asset. And then we offer them the ability to have long-term service agreements afterwards so that we're here to make sure the battery's working properly. The fact that the 24/7 monitoring of the advanced battery management system is all done through the Nerve Center up in Edison, New Jersey, is cybersecurity-wise. We've gotten some awards through Camp Pendleton. Got awarded Camp Pendleton 400 megawatt hours through the California Energy Commission back in December. All really high on the decoupling the Chinese supply chain and that type thing. So we're finding our way to niche into a larger, bigger market, but yet do it with the right use case and where our battery fits the best, and is the most not only economical but safe for the community in those particular situations.
Crazy. Okay, I gotta say, awesome, very awesome. Okay, so Dennis, I gotta know. Okay, we've had this discussion, all right, before on the program, as I said earlier, which was that you're as a city of Holstead mayor. We're not talking about a huge town. We're talking about a little town in Harvey County, Kansas, in the middle of the United States of America. Please tell me and the audience, how did you develop, strike up, start a relationship with Mr. McBee?
Well, it is an interesting story, Lance. And the way it started was, I've been researching this for going on 3 years now. We've had some resistance in the community to the other technology that we've discussed. And, I don't like to argue with anybody in town. I like to get along with everybody. So I was branching out, looking at different technologies. A lot of those technologies are promising, but they're not commercially viable. And then I run across this company that's got a pilot project going on in Lincoln, Nebraska. And that was an EOS project that's getting ready to fire up real soon. And started reading the article, and that was the afternoon before I did the presentation at the work session. So I didn't know a lot about EOS, but it was interesting enough. I included it as a slide in that presentation. And told people, hey, here's another technology. It's Z3 Zinc. I'm learning about it. I just found this today. I'll research it further in the next few weeks. So I went on to research the technology and learn as much as I could about it. And I'm going to give Shane a hard time for this because originally I reached out to the contact page on EOS's website, and I filled it all out. And I said, please contact me. I want to talk to a representative. 2 or 3 days, hadn't heard anything. I'm like, doggone it, I wish they would respond to me. And then another gentleman out of St. Louis that was monitoring my posts is a friend of Shane's, and he came forward and called me out of the blue one night, and for once I answered my phone on an unknown number, and it was this gentleman out of St. Louis, and he said, are you trying to get a hold of EOS? I said, absolutely, I really want to talk to him. And he goes, I know the guy you need to talk to. I'm going to send your number to him, and he'll call you back right away. I said, great. So about 5 minutes later, I got a call from Shane. We struck up a conversation. He agreed to fly from, I believe, Atlanta into Wichita and then come up and see me. And that was when we met the first time. And I laid out our existing project that we had at the time. That project is since that developer is completely pulled out. And so I'm just looking at EOS as a potential to maybe keep the negative side of the argument happy about adopting to a technology that does check all their boxes. So, Shane and I have had several conversations. We've talked about marketing. We've talked about getting a new developer on board. We actually do have a new developer on board. I don't want to discuss who that is yet, but it is a very large developer with nationwide experience, worldwide experience, and they are in talks with Evergy currently. And we hope that Evergy agrees and we can put a project on the table, but we're not there yet. So I wanted to use the podcast today, and make no mistakes, I'm here as resident Dennis Travis, as electrician Dennis Travis, to introduce EOS to everybody in Harvey County, because I'm pretty darned excited about their technology and their offering. So that's what brings us here today.
Okay, and so many. Dennis wears two hats, right? Dennis wears
we're about 4
Holstead resident hat, right? Of just wanting to see things that are pro-positive for your community. Obviously, I know your heart, and that's why you signed up to serve in the capacity that you did. And we've had many discussions about the fact that when people, the early development that you just mentioned had pulled out. I guess I didn't know that at this time, that they decided, this is not a good fit. We're going to go ahead and just, cut ties or whatever the case may be. Sorry, it couldn't work out. Shake hands and leave. But when we were having discussions about what a lot of people were bringing up as the negative side of the potential for the traditional is, I don't know, I may not be saying it correctly, so forgive me if I don't say it correctly, but I'm going to just call it the traditional battery energy storage system with a lithium-based battery. Okay, that's, once again, sorry if I'm saying this wrong, but upon finding out that this is different technology, okay, and that I was just fascinated. So I want to kick it back over to Shane here and say, just not to speak negatively, because you had mentioned about the different uses and different forms of battery technology, but did EOS come about because it was trying to address some of the negative side effects of utilizing this technology in the way that it was trying to be utilized?
That's a great question. I think that when you go back to 2008, when Steve Amendola started the company, he had a vision for where storage, the need was going to come for in the future. Probably at the time, and there's when you just take wind and solar, and you're grabbing that density of what I had read a stat one time on a plane that the sun delivered enough energy back to the earth every 2 minutes to meet all of mankind's demand for a year. Now, whether that was true or not, I thought to myself, and we only capture about 7 to 11% of that. If you could capture it and store it, you wouldn't have businesses that need to go into curtailment or monitor their energy consumption from 2 to 6 in the afternoon, and they could carry on their business as normal. That curtailment would need to be storage and then brought back to the grid when the demand was higher, even if we just stored it at night. So I think the vision was there, and then it was a lot of R&D to get to the place that we are today, and then to get commercially ramped. I think the biggest thing I know, Dennis and I talked about was not having any conflict materials, not having any cobalt or lithium inside of our battery. It does affect the density. So on an incumbent battery, you might be able to get a smaller footprint and have more energy demand density-wise there. So you're going to have to touch more pieces with ours. But with that, the electrolyte, about the acidity of Coca-Cola or Gatorade. I wouldn't drink it, but maybe you could. I wouldn't drink it. But that said, you could take our battery up and 30 days later put a playground there. And just that statement in and of itself, along with the thermal runaway impedance, really talks about it's going to be a little bit of a premium over lithium. But when you take the rare earths, no conflict materials out of it, what decommissioning looks like, what recycling looks like, just with normal recycling processes at the end of life. Those type things all really matter, and I think it was a vision of the founders to really see this need and us to work alongside lithium, not trying to compete. Lithium's got its spots it's good in, and we're good in the spots that we're good in, whether it's arbitrage or grid resiliency or frequency adequacy, that type thing, or the curtailment to make sure we're not hearing from the utility or the off-taker that everybody's getting home from work, we're starting to peak. The other big difference in our battery is it's meant to be a workhorse. It's meant to work and cycle every day. It's not a load the battery up and wait for the hurricane to hit and then we've got energy for backup. It's meant to cycle, and because it has no calendar degradation, you can run this battery a second time in the afternoon and participate in those ancillary services for peak shifting and peak shaving, a little solar firming when everybody gets home from work, and it only counts as one cycle for the day. Where incumbent technologies might be able to do that, but it might count as two. It does count as 2 cycles for the day. So a 20-year battery now becomes a 10. So you're really getting an asset that's meant to be a workhorse, come and provide you grid resiliency that's safe for the community. It's not loud. It's not going to disturb any kind of aquifer due to the electrolyte being basically an aqueous solution. If there were some kind of event, the electrolyte itself could put any kind of event out. So there won't be any thermal event, but if you were to take a blowtorch to anything, you might get some smoldering, but we've added flame retardant to the modules for that reason. And we want the community and the first responders to feel safe that it's not something that's going to be challenging or that you're reading about in the news a lot. So it's I think the vision was there, and it's really now coming to where it's we did all the pretty renderings on the PowerPoint slides for years, and now we've truly got a manufacturing facility that is proven, and we're at scale. We're deployed out in the market, and we've got operating data. We're now at probably close to 6.5 gigawatt hours of operating data of cycling energy out in the field.
Wow. Okay, Dennis. So knowing that that there was this conversation was taking place in Holstead, in Harvey County. There were many things, and I mean, and I say many, but maybe 5 or 6 major concerns. And people could point to, decibels. They could point to, well, what happens if X, Y, or Z happens? I think that you call it thermal runoff, right? Runaway. And that's basically, in layman's terms, the thing catches fire, right? That's what thermal runaway is.
Right.
Okay. So then with that being said, and knowing that those concerns were out there, and you endeavoring to try to find a solution to check all the boxes, just kind of give me kind of where your head was at when you started researching and finding out, well, one concern is this. Okay, check that. This fixes that concern. This fixes that concern. Where were you at that point?
When I originally started researching, and anybody that does research alternative technologies for BESS, they're going to come across it. There's an iron oxide battery that's pretty interesting, and then sodium ion, and a lot of these are flow batteries. And, initially the first response from the concerns in the public were about fire, so that's going to be number one. Number two was the aquifer. And when you start looking at these flow batteries, well, when you start thinking about that, if you got 1,000 batteries in a container or even 100 of them, each one of them has 2 different leak paths because of that flowing electrolyte that goes battery to battery. So I didn't like the idea of a flow battery. I like the idea of a self-contained sealed battery, which is what EOS offers. That eliminates fire. It eliminates the risk to the aquifer. And then the next thing was, honestly, that got me real excited was the release of their new battery management software, the Dawn OS. And that software being all developed in the U.S. with all source code being held in the U.S. really makes it anti-tamper proof for any hackers that want to try to get in. So when you really start to look at EOS's entire package overall, they literally addressed every concern that I was seeing coming from the negative side of the argument. And I'm like, holy cow, I just found the holy grail for a BESS battery. And honestly, the more I research EOS, the more I get to know Shane, and I hope to meet Joe Mastrangelo one of these days, and I hope to go tour their manufacturing facility. I've seen videos of it. It's very impressive. And they're picking up traction in the market right now. I'm going to encourage Shane to talk about some of the other projects, but the 2 I'm most familiar with are the one in Lincoln, Nebraska that originally I found and started looking at, and they have another big project going on with City Utilities in Springfield, Missouri. So these aren't projects across the world from us. These are our neighbors. Yeah. So EOS is establishing a footprint right now, right here in the middle of the Midwest.
Yeah, and with that being said, that was going to be my next question for you, Shane. Was and I got a 2-part question. You said something that really triggered me, and I think in a positive way, and that is, I'm pro manufacturing, pro American manufacturing, right? I think we do it better than anybody in the world, and I think there's been many things over the course of years that have tied our hands, and I want for things to be made in the U.S. of A., right? And some of the things that you addressed as far as complications that can take place in this global manufacturing environment and market that we have, and we need this from over here and this from over here, and any one of those supply chain issues that take place, well, then we're tits up. And I apologize for saying that, but that's basically what happens. Okay. Yep. So with that being said, 2-part thing. Was it really important for those that put EOS out there to be manufactured in the United States? And then second part was to allude to what Mayor Travis said, or Dennis Travis, because he's not Mayor Travis today, Dennis Travis, that are there quite a few different facilities where this is being applied across the United States?
Well, if you mean just for EOS, we've got one facility right now, and we've got a line in there with our Acro, or even our automation came out of Madison, Wisconsin, American made. And when you go to the website, eose.com, you can see the drone videos of the actual robots making batteries. It's neat, and it will answer a lot of the questions about American made technology, and that we still can make things in America that can compete. I think there's plenty of technology out there. I think just to carve out 4 or 5% of the global demand for battery storage could still be a $2 or $3 billion company. And I think those are just some stats that I read. I had to check my math on those. But the pulling everything back from overseas, EOS had done probably 6 or 7 years ago. I know Joe tells a story about coming over and had two or three employees at the time in a dumpster, and they were clearing out the warehouse over there at Westinghouse in the Mon Valley in Turtle Creek. And now today we've probably approaching 700 employees with a 1.2 gigawatt hour line in place. We've got site and visibility through we do have a DOE loan that we closed on last year, and that's to increase our production capacity. So a second line will put us at about 2.2 gigawatt hours, something like that, by the end of 26, and then site and visibility for further expansion. I think the plan right now is to be at 8.2 by end of 27 or first half of 28. So all good things that have gotten to where this demand is there. It's not pent up. It's the AI and the data centers are certainly bringing their own complexities around what all everybody's doing, whether there's doing some chat GPT in or whatever a data center's doing for demand wise. It's going to require some backup storage and to handle that grid resilience so that we don't see curtailment letters going out to a local fab shop, that type thing. They are there. For us, it's to really take the battery and get that developer up to speed on this is an asset. That this is such a workhorse. We kind of talked about as you've got about a 3.6% degradation from beginning of life to the end of the 25 years, not 2 and 3% year over year. Now we all know if we charge our phone and just leave it in the back seat of our car, you're not going to go out there and it be at any kind of 100% charge 2 days later. Our battery is about 0.15% degradation year over year. So you literally end up with just over 96.5% of the battery at end of life. And we can size that thing so that capacity guarantees there. And it's not just a battery meant to store like we've talked about, but I think the vision being there for that, where we are today. And I know, Dennis kind of talked about, when we got we have 80 megawatt hours in Eastover, South Carolina that we got deployed. At that time, it was the largest non-lithium cycling asset globally. Now, that was a couple years ago. Some of that might have changed by now, but to speak to the other pieces of that, when we booked Camp Pendleton, you took 80 times 5X, and that was a 400 megawatt hour. That's going to be coming through the plant here, coming up, end of this year and into the first half of 26. But city utilities in Springfield, Missouri, another 216 megawatt hours. We've got coming through the plant now, and cubes are being delivered to that site, as we talk today. So a lot of good things, but to go from the largest deployed asset being 80 megawatt hours to 5X that being awarded. And then some other smaller, pilot projects coming up like in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we've got some in ERCOT in East Texas and then the south part of Texas as well. So to get it out there, get the operating data, get that energy storage developer community comfortable where they know they can reach out and pull some operating data and this technology works or does it not. That's been the biggest challenge for us. But I think on the American-made side, 2.5 gigawatt hours right there with site and visibility to that, only 1.2 up today. But you've got a lot of, we can still make things in America, and I think that's the message.
And this is amazing. Okay, so my next question, just to go right back to you, Shane, okay? This technology is here. Like, nobody else on the globe is doing what you all are doing.
There's plenty of non-lithium technologies, but to have and Dennis makes a good point. He's a guy that touches automation and instrumentation. We used to laugh because I worked at Rosemont when I first got out of college back in the late 80s.
My biggest competitor.
Big competitor. I still have the little calibration screwdriver that says Rosemont on it.
You didn't even know you were competing, but you were competing, right?
Yeah. So the piece of that that's nice is the ability to say, we've gone through a lot of the pain to get to this point, and we've scaled, and now we're here. Now, when you're in the market, the bigger off takers that might be slow movers and really want to be risk averse, they go, hey, we're glad you guys are here. Just go cut your teeth on somebody else, and we want to be first to be second.
Yes.
So we're getting through some of that as well, and understandably, because it's all kinds of things can get out in the market, and does it work, does it not? And we've worked hard to make sure we've got some backstop packages that can help developers be comfortable with the technology that'll perform the way we said it would. And working through those comfortabilities has certainly been a part of getting the technology out there, getting everybody comfortable that it's an option. And we hit it straight on. I mean, we're not going to have, we have a 100% depth of charge, so all of the energy that's stored is available to the off-taker or the utility or the microgrid if it's behind the meter, that kind of thing. But temperature range-wise, -15 to positive 50 degrees C, where incumbent technologies really have air conditioning working hard to be 5 to 20 degrees C, so that air is working. And that's a big expense. So operating and maintenance wise, it's good to have a static sealed cell that doesn't have cooling systems flowing between the modules, to Dennis's point. But operating and maintenance wise, parasitic load, the fact that it can run on about the energy of 2 light bulbs in your home a year is just really speaks volumes. But we've got about a 30%, and I don't say it's a premium because we're not trying to charge more than lithium. We're trying to work in the market alongside the incumbent technologies, but we do have to touch more pieces. It's my footprint might be 2x over a lithium footprint, but they can daisy chain together in the field because there is no thermal runaway. This gives you the ability to kind of shrink the space a little bit. And we've also done some for in terms of the installation for the developer. We've got an upper transom channel that your power runs through with flex bus bars. Low voltage telemetry runs in that channel, so these guys can stack side by side out in the field. Behind one marshalling box, you can get about 12 of our units. You don't have to have any kind of 3-meter perimeter around them because of a thermal runaway possibility. So that helps. We've tried to reduce the cost of installing our product because of the density, but we feel we've got our place in the market, and it's incumbent technologies have theirs, and we've got ours that we're good at.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I just gotta say, amazing. Okay, because I'm of the generation, right, that and depending upon how you look at it as an individual, I'm somebody that really does believe in renewable energy, right? It's funny. It's just amazing. I mean, it's all in one. We developed wind energy, right? We developed solar technology to be able to capture this, right? But then we found, well, there's no real way to store it, so now we have to store it. But I'm picturing like a situation where you had mentioned Camp Pendleton, right, as being one of your customers with this system. That you could have solar panels out there that connect to your battery energy storage system, which then power everything you need from your facility, and it just works in conjunction with one another, and therefore you could be totally off the grid in every way.
You could be, a kind of a neat project that came upon that we've delivered to is a golf course out in the desert out in California, and because it's in the desert, it's kind of a neat. You can see the aerial shots of it. It's very green and lush, and then it's just boom, it's sand, right? Like it looks like it's in Las Vegas, but they have special irrigation things that need to go on under the soil and whatnot for it to look the way that it does. So we've gotten batteries installed there that's going to kind of help with the irrigation, help run the lights for the actual facility, and they're going to have a little microgrid eventually where they'll have some solar panels out there and grabbing that source for renewable, storing it, and then using it to help with the golf course. So it's whether it's a CNI installation or complete grid resiliency for a utility, or a small microgrid in that type sense. It's we've got use cases that we really are good in, and we can really shine in. We just got to get through, and we hit them head on with a couple of headwinds. We say right off, or you're going to see about a 20 to 25% premium just because of the density, and round trip efficiency is something that comes up. So because it's a static sealed bipolar cell and we're not augmenting, there are system balancings and whatnot that the BMS can run in the peripheral. The actual operator doesn't have to do it. So on that advanced BMS, especially the Dawn OS that Dennis talked about, these algorithms and state of health algorithms are going to run to keep the battery fine-tuned and running on all 8 cylinders while it's up and running. If it feels like a battery is needing to have some system balancing, it'll just bypass around it at the string level. The operator doesn't have to do anything with it. So we've truly evolved into a generation that the battery can sit, monitor itself. It's not being cooled by any kind of flow system, so there's no diaphragms and pumps. And your operating and maintenance wise is just it's a fraction of what other technologies are, and that really comes into play as over the life cycle. We call it levelized cost of storage, because you might have a price tag that's one thing on day one, but once you don't have to go in and run HVAC for 25 years, once you don't have to go in and retool the cathode twice during the life of the battery, once you don't have to do these things that you won't have to do with EOS, it'll levelize itself off. And then we've gotten real good about trying to teach the developer on how to model it and how to go monetize that curtailment or monetize that grid flow. And I think it's, we try to take the developer in, have them come up to Edison where our Ingenuity lab is, let them see how the battery works, and kind of really understand what the use case is. So it's a fully getting back to the consultative art of selling versus just going, hey, I need a battery, let's cut me a PO. And the fact with the you kind of touched on the overseas thing. When you go order a transformer, and they're 30 months out now, and it's because of their origination. And when we say we'll book in 9 months, you're not going to be waiting on EOS for your project. There's other pieces that you'll be waiting on, but it won't be EOS.
Yeah, you're almost making the case once again for having manufactured, sourced, produced, all sold, distributed within the United States. Because anybody over the last 10 years has come upon, any consumer, myself included, has come upon a situation where you're unable to get whatever it is you're looking accomplished because, well, it's somewhere else. Can't do anything about it. Okay, so Dennis, I want you to speak to your fellow Holstead residents, Harvey County residents, right? Having come to the understanding that this is a potential technology that can be used, or hopefully in the future come here to Harvey County, what do you have to say to people who were completely against the situation before, but this is different?
Well, I'm going to probably ride the same horse I've always ridden, Lance. And, in our smaller agricultural-based communities, the opportunities for economic development are few and far between. With the demand that's going to be put on the grid nationwide with these data centers and the AI stuff that Shane alluded to, there's going to be regional areas where these battery energy storage systems fit well. And it's going to be your substations that are in outlying communities and outlying in the county. And if there's an opportunity for the neighboring city or the county to gain income, whether it be taxes or a pilot payment from a developer to put these plants in, that can truly help your bottom line on your budget in your community. If you're familiar and you remember the numbers, the actual offer we had on the table from the previous developer was $500,000 a year payment to Holstead. That represented a 20% growth in our actual budget numbers for the year. And any community that could see 20% growth in their budget numbers for the year, all of a sudden all these community interest projects and other infrastructure projects that you need to get done that you just didn't have the money for before, now all of a sudden they look like they're possible. So that was some of my biggest hopes with that original project was, hey, here's a way to secure our financial future for the next 20 years. And because of the resistance to the lithium technology, that opportunity is now off the table. And I'm trying to figure out a way to put an opportunity on the table that can still bring that economic development to the city and keep everybody happy. And that's my biggest challenge.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of that challenge, I want to kick it back over to you, Shane. Knowing that you're in this, what's the word? This field. We'll just call it a field, right? Knowing that you could be likened to generally 10,000 foot view, well, it's another battery energy storage system, right? So then if I'm somebody that's like putting you in the same category as potentially these other battery energy storage systems, and I just say, well, we don't want this because we can have, this happen, they're loud, they're this, they're that, they're polluting, etc., etc. How do you, what would you say to me as an individual that is looking at you very skeptically to say that, well, this has happened and this has happened and this has happened and we don't want this here, this is all bad? Convince me otherwise.
Yeah, thanks, Lance, for prompting that up. One thing I thought I would do is I've got a little 3-minute script that I wrote up for when there is an offering, say, from a township, and the last one I went to and attended, and they'll have public comment sections where you can step up to the podium and grab the mic and address the city council. I wasn't sure if we had something like that was going to be available to us here. I think it might come later, but if I could, I'll just kind of read the script that I wrote, and I think it hones right in on what you're talking about. Now, this is just when I've got 3 minutes. In this case, to your point, they've decided they want to do a moratorium where it gives us as a council or a town more time to educate ourselves on what's out there, what these mean. And of course, some of the community wants to just see a ban because they see, lithium batteries and here's the stuff in the news. And what that looks like. So if I step up to the mic and I'm given 3 minutes and I'm trying to be respectful of the 3 minutes because the community, most of the time, this is their chance to, they don't want me up there trying to troll and sell things. So I'll just kind of read it the way that I do it. Okay, good evening, council members, neighbors, and concerned residents. My name is Shane McBee, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about energy storage, specifically why we should carefully consider community-friendly alternatives to incumbent technologies and batteries. I strongly encourage Holstead to support the EOS zinc bromine battery technology, which is a U.S.-made alternative that avoids the risk that many of us are worried about here tonight. Incumbent technologies and batteries carry a well-documented fire and explosion risk. They can enter thermal runaway, which is why we've seen news stories about warehouse fires, EV recalls, and even local moratoriums cropping up across the country. By contrast, EOS zinc bromine batteries are inherently non-flammable. They do not pose the same runaway fire danger. That means that firefighters, first responders, and your families are not exposed to the same level of risk. This just isn't about energy, it's about protecting this community. These batteries are made here in the United States by American workers with American supply chains. That means more local jobs, more domestic security, and less dependence on overseas materials like cobalt and lithium, which are often tied to environmental harm and human rights concerns abroad. The EOS zinc bromine battery can be decommissioned and a playground put on the same site 30 days later. By supporting EOS zinc bromine BESS, we're investing in safer technology and in our own economy. Unlike incumbent technologies, which can degrade quickly with cycling, the EOS zinc bromine batteries are designed for daily use over long periods without the same wear and tear. They are well suited for community energy storage, helping us stabilize the grid, integrating cleaner energy, and keeping the lights on during peak demand. They provide reliable, long-duration energy without the risk that come with incumbent technologies. Other technologies are perfect for their own use case in cell phones, laptops, EVs, or your Apple Watch. EOS is meant for long-duration energy storage. EOS is safe. It's just that simple. I would like to urge the council tonight and all of us here to make sure that any decision about energy storage keep safety, reliability, and community benefit front and center. Lithium may be the default, and it's a more well-known solution today, but it is not the only solution. Let's support safer, American-made solutions like the EOS hybrid zinc bromine battery energy storage system. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to interject this, and this is no reflection on you all. This is my opinion completely. But here in our community, it wasn't so long ago that they put a moratorium. People want to call it a ban. Just they banned solar and wind. Okay. And I was absolutely against this. And one of the reasons why I was against this was if you go banning, let's say, wind energy because of the negative aspects of what we see today when it comes to how they capture the wind. These very large wind turbines that do X, Y, and Z, that eventually they're going to, be decommissioned, and what do we do with them? And there was just a lot of negativity surrounding it. So they put forth a moratorium and they banned it. And my biggest concern was, well, if we do that, then what happens as this technology continues to improve over time, where we could get a wind turbine that was, let's say, half the height, maybe a third of the height, and then produces 5 times the electricity, right? Which is absolutely 100% possible. But if you go through and you ban this, then the end result is you are excluding any possibility whatsoever of newer technology being developed, which is improving on the process and having a better outcome. And this is just a prime example of that being the case. Would you guys agree with that? With what you're doing and what EOS is doing, it's just proving the point that if people go out and they want to ban a certain technology based upon the negative aspects or the potential for there to be negative consequence of this technology, that excludes new technology or the improvement of a technology to be better, more efficient, and eco-friendly.
I think if we turned a blind eye to innovation, and then we got over consumed with on any of those assets, even a windmill, you want that asset to outlive the cost of the carbon footprint it took to make it, right? And then if it can bring back resiliency to the grid, which some people feel the grid's got a lot of antiquated parts to it that are dilapidated, and some of these projects that come up, Lance, can offer the utility to go back to that developer and go, hey, we might need $10 million of interconnect upgrades in order for this project to go down. So what a great way to amortize that facelift for the grid, for that substation, or for those interconnect lines inside this development project. So it becomes this ability to have benefit beyond just what the asset is there to do. But to your point, I think anytime we wouldn't have the iPhones in our hand that we have today if we weren't about innovation, and we were concerned about everything it took to evolve to get that Apple phone to where it is today. But we love having it. It's part of what makes our lifestyle and our livelihood what it is. It's how we get information. But there were some iterations and generations along the way that needed to be proven and become better, and that's why you get all the iOS updates that you get in the software. But turning a blind eye to innovation, you do miss the opportunity to be on the cusp of when the market turns a corner around two things, whether it's all the things that we've learned about renewables, whether it's wind or solar, or just a battery that doesn't even need a renewable source. We can just charge it off the grid when demand is low at 7 cents a kilowatt hour, and bring that same energy back onto the grid when it's 57 or 65 cents that we stored when it was 7. That arbitrage piece can go back to the ratepayer and save money. But if we don't let innovation kind of evolve, we're not going to see those impacts and what we could have in our hand today. I'll date myself here. I was a kid in the 70s, and I can remember sticking my finger in my grandmother's phone and going. And if I hand that phone to my daughters today, they go, "What in the world is this? I don't even know how this works."
Just try to push the.
So think about what's evolved today. If we still had to do phones that way, and we didn't have the iPhone that we have in our hand, innovation is massive. It's what makes us who we are in America, and certainly staying on the cutting edge of that as we turn the corner towards this renewable piece. It's been here already. It's just a matter of continuing to perfect the automation around pieces that help us capture it and bring it back to the grid safely.
Yeah. I mean, something that comes to mind when we're talking about phones is, I know we all remember when cell phones first came out. I was joking with somebody the other day, when you were going to text somebody, or 22333 5 6 6 7 4. You know, and that's
or we
just,
had the beepers. Remember
or
the
beepers? Yeah, pagers. Yeah.
I told my daughter the other day the first cell phone I had was that bag phone. It looked like I was calling in for air support in Vietnam. Remember the big bag and the big.
Yeah, and the car is another one. You know, we're just coming up on 100 years of mass producing a vehicle.
Yeah.
Right. So that, you know, we look back and we think, 100 years, that's a long time. But even with technology that's improving, that's just happening faster and faster and faster. You know, we're being able to now with proven technologies shorten time spans of 100 years that it took to get beginning the mass production of the automobile to where we are today. That might, from today to the future, be 20-year window, right? Yep. So, Dennis, okay, same questions posed to you. You know, when we talk about, you were sitting front and center. You watched the situation unfold with other technologies that some could argue were not fit for our community, and that's fine. I'm not going over and advocating for anything different to take place than what took place, but I'm very cautious, once again, about this full-on moratorium or ban, looking at a situation that incorporates technology that can and obviously will over time be improved. So we're taking a snapshot from today and going, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just on you, I mean, not to put you on the spot, but I mean, are you of the same concern to not throw the baby out with the bathwater?
Absolutely. I'm very disappointed, but I understand this citizen-led ordinance that is now a ballot issue for us. The thing that bothers me the most about how this thing is unraveled, and you've seen me post about it, it's not that they were fighting to stop a project that was approved. They're fighting to stop us from ever going through the process. There was still plenty of engineering studies left to be done, other safety studies left to be done before anybody would have weighed in on a final decision on the project. And for me, that's the most upsetting point. And then to word this ordinance the way that they have it worded is it strictly bans BESS, period. It doesn't limit it by technology or battery chemistry or anything else. And it does sell us short for future opportunities. And that's why it's very important to me that I get my message out as a resident that say no to this ban, because there are other technologies coming down the pipe that can address all these questions. I believe EOS is the holy grail for this. I believe wholeheartedly in that. I'm afraid to say that too loud in front of Shane. He might get swelled head over it. But
I think it's amazing.
Their story is a standalone story that's absolutely great. With the demand across the country, the demand that we all know is there, those of us that watch the energy sector, we're seeing curtailed demandments now. And people think this stuff don't happen. I've got it on record that one manufacturer in Holstead was asked at least 3 or 4 times this year to curtail usement during peak hours. And I'll be making that public knowledge with the evidence to support that this did happen soon. But this is happening all across the Midwest. The demand for these battery energy storage centers is going to be there. They're going to happen. If I was up in Iowa 2 weeks ago, and I got farmers all around there that are friends of mine, and they're telling me that all these substations are getting reworked across the state of Iowa. And I went in, they're in a different power pool than we are. And everybody knows I've looked at SPP's connection request list. And last I looked, there was over 35 connection requests for standalone BESS across the state of Kansas. There was more in Iowa on their power pool up there. So this technology is needed across the middle of the Midwest. Most Midwesterners are going to take a conservative approach. Most of them probably will have an issue with lithium based on lithium's early track record. And for God's sakes, Moss Landing that everybody keeps talking about. And I think that EOS does offer that alternative. If you're really that concerned about lithium, here's an alternative that I believe will keep everybody happy. I posted an article a few days ago. There was a recent BESS fire. I believe it was out in California or New Mexico, somewhere in there. And it was a modern BESS container. Now, the fire did stay contained to the 2 BESSes that were sited next to each other, and the local responders really no injuries and event free while they kept the other containers cool. It did what it was supposed to do, but it's still a fire risk. EOS is one way we can address this and take the fire risk completely off the table. And like I said earlier, the fact that this Dawn OS software was all developed in the U.S., has that source code held locally here, where keeps us from being hacked by foreign entities. There's just a lot of good points to their technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we are coming to the end. We usually try to keep this about an hour. And one thing that I do for everybody that's a guest on the program is to allow you to have the last word, to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of everybody listening. And I just want to have Dennis go first, because I want to make sure Shane allows for to give his last word, but also to include in that how people can look you up, be able to research you, even get into contact with you for all purposes, whether it's to ask questions or to hop on board with this new technology. Dennis, last word, my man.
For me, Lance, it's important for the people that have supported me to sit in that chair as mayor to know that even on a personal level, I'm investing a lot of my own time to research stuff. Not to just stay with my original thoughts, because originally I was okay with the lithium solution. I thought it could be done safely, but because of the resistance, I am willing to go out there and look for other technologies and look for something that I can bring to the table that might keep everybody happy. I don't think you'll ever keep everybody happy, but I'm just going to, as long as the people of Holstead and Harvey County want me to continue to work in that capacity for them, I'm going to keep doing it.
All right, Dennis. Mr. McBee?
Thank you so much for this opportunity today. So, Dennis, thank you for the opportunity to come and meet Holstead and kind of address what you guys have as a great opportunity for economic development. And we understand the concerns around it. That's why EOS is here. We're never one that says we want to be, it's a race down to the bottom. Who could be the cheapest? But at the same time, we feel we're competitive there, and we can provide a very community-friendly, good neighbor battery that can come and go to work for Evergy, the utility, for whoever the would-be developer is, and that's why it's been a great opportunity for us to kind of come in and say we have a solution that can go to work, that has no thermal runway, that is easy to operate, is a good neighbor, low decibels, no HVAC, running for 25 years. Please go to our website, go to eose.com. And take a look on there at the Dawn OS operating system. There's a great video on the landing page of it, and we've got a drone video there that flies through the Westinghouse facility. You can see the Acro automated line making American-made batteries right there on the site. Right there in Pittsburgh. So, a Steelers game is always right on a Sunday if we need to do a tour on Monday. Yeah, I know that wouldn't go well out here.
Chiefs Nation.
Yeah, Chiefs Nation here, buddy.
Hey, I pull for Patrick Mahomes every chance I get. But yeah, it's a great opportunity, and we thank you for the chance to be here, and Lance for the platform. Wish to kind of introduce EOS to Kansas, and we've got we've already done the scalability to become commercially out into the market, and I think that really speaks volumes. And we're standing by to be of service. We look forward to the opportunity should we be able to move forward with the project in Holstead.
And I personally want to thank Shane for his responsiveness whenever I've reached out to him. You think of his scale of manufacturing and everything back in Pennsylvania. Some mayor from a community of 2,500's reaching out to him, and Shane's treated me like a rock star as far as me seeking information from EOS. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and coming on the program, man. I mean, I appreciate Shane, because this is something that interests me. I mean, I was very forward, and when talking with both of you, it's like, this is not my field, So I hope that I was able to be a good interview in regard of being able to ask the questions that allowed for EOS to speak your mind and what you have, and I just appreciate both of you. So I just want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of HCTalk. As always, I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our guests on the program were Dennis Travis, and I'm just still going to call you mayor of Holstead, Dennis Travis, even though you're here with just your Dennis Travis hat on. And our special guest was Shane McBee, who is the Senior Director of Corporate Accounts and Community Outreach for EOS Energy. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you, Lance.